Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest Just the Tip. That's totally interesting people to you. Just the tip interview, and we're here talking to Fergus McKee tonight, who is another interesting blue sky representative. How are you doing, Fergus?
I'm very well, Stuart. Thank you very much for that little introduction. I hope I'm interesting. We shall see. See how the next hour unfolds.
Well, I've been following some of your posts on Blue Sky, obviously, because that's where we know each other from. And
Indeed.
you're one of the people I do look out for, and I generally find your posts interesting. So I think we'll be just fine tonight. Don't worry.
Okay, good.
So one of the things we normally talk about early is people's basically their journey of becoming a Spurs fan and how they find it nowadays in terms of following it. So how did you get started with Spurs?
Well, I mean, first thing to say is my family are not Spurs. They're not a football family. Then just
Neither of
not
mine.
interested. So, it's like my memory of watching sports, say in the 80s, was my dad would record golf and then rewatch golf. So I've watched an awful lot of
Right.
golf. So that was that's where I kind of came from. But I remember. I mean, the FA Cup was like a big thing back in the kind of the 80s and 90s because in many respects, it's the only football you could actually watch. And so I remember vividly watching I remember seeing all the kind of like Italian 90 was the first kind of big time I was watching football. I was like, wow. And like, obviously, Gaza had main character energy there. And
Yeah.
then he was playing for Spurs, and then I saw him in the '91 Cup final. I thought this football's really exciting, and it kind of was probably around the same time that I also kind of realised that Arsenal were playing very boring 1-0 football under George Graham. I think I started to kind of like Spurs and also dislike Arsenal, but without actually kind of properly realising the rivalry between the two. But during the kind of even the 90s and into the early 2000s, I mean, it was very easy not to pay too much attention to football unless because I mean I grew up in Salisbury, so it was like everyone in the playground was Spurs or everyone in the playground was Arsenal or something like that. So it was I think it was really probably as I kind of left university and went to work, and I really started following Spurs a lot more. So we're talking about 2000 here, and I think I had to give a shout out to my friend Bimmel for really being the person who turned me, who helped nurture my fandom and really got me into Spurs. And we would just actually go down the pub and watch together. And he got he got tickets for myself and a couple of flatmates to go and watch a game. It was quite a legendary game. It was the FA Cup replay of against Man City. I think it was 2003, 2004. I can't remember the exact year now. So
Okay.
we went three. We were out 3-0.
Is this that game? It is that
It was
game,
that
isn't it?
game.
It's that game. Ah,
Yeah. We won at 3-0. I didn't even realize Joey Barton had been sent off at half time. And then I remember I've never felt an atmosphere in a place change so quickly as after they scored their first goal. And you could just collectively just knew everyone was like, oh no, And then we managed to snatch a loss out of the jaws of victory that day.
yeah.
And I could have saved myself a lot of heartbreak, and I could have possibly just said, no, that's it for me. But no, I was hooked. I loved it. It was just watching a team that could kind of send the same 11 players out and kind of win, lose or draw was quite interesting to me.
Managed two of those in the same match. Won the first
Yeah,
half and miserably lost
yeah,
the second.
yeah. So it's just like watching a team just win. This is kind of boring
Yeah.
and predictable. Watching Spurs is never been predictable. So I was I was kind of, that was the point I was really hooked. And then obviously kind of fandom has changed massively in the last 15 or so years with the advent of social media. It's just so much easier. Everything's there, all the clips are there, the comments are there. And so I feel that I have interacted, and my obsession, I guess, with Spurs has increased somewhat over that time. So here we are now.
So your friend who introduced you, do you still thank him, or have you got a little voodoo doll that you're occasionally sticking pins into for to try and get some revenge?
Well, I don't talk to him that much, mainly because I'm now in Canada and he's in England.
Yeah.
But certainly we were just chatting after the Europa League final win, it was good to chat to him and just like just yeah, it was after seeing so many years of just not making it and just being really bad, having something to celebrate again was fantastic.
You supported Spurs through the early 2000s. You definitely saw some of the very bad. Yeah.
Yes.
Not just that Manchester City game, which me and my mates, we still talk about nowadays as like the
Yeah.
epitome of how things can go from really great to really very Spurs. So yeah, yeah, that was a tough one. For me, that game was, as I remember, I think that was one of the first games I actually got to listen to on the radio over here in France because I'd moved
Right.
over a few months before, and oh yeah, just the first half magnificent, and then I was like celebrating in the street when Joey Barton got sent off. The
Yeah.
news coming through on the radio: Joey Barton's been sent off at half time. I was like, fantastic! This is great. This is going to be easy. No,
Yeah.
not allowed. Not
Yeah.
allowed to have nice things.
No, no, not at all. But it does make the kind of Europa League win a whole lot sweeter because of those sorts of
Yeah,
times, I feel.
yeah. I mean, we've had sporadic success, couple of League Cups, and
Hmm.
yeah, now one very nice one of these.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Europa League, which was particularly fun, seeing the side lift a significant major trophy, which they had not done in my fandom. I mean, I started following Spurs around '94,
Mm.
so it hadn't happened in the time that I'd been a fan before, and we'd got close with some finals, but obviously the Champions League final was the closest we got with a European trophy. But
Yes.
yeah, this one was good, and I don't know where you watched it, but I watched it in a bar with mates in Paris, and just sharing that with friends was fantastic.
As the Europa League, I just watched it at home. So I live in a small little town in Canada, and there's I know a couple of people here who are kind of Spurs fans, but they're not like
Hmm.
I think anywhere quite as obsessed with than I am. So I kind of watched it at home, and then my wife just kind of laughing at me just as I'm jumping around and just shaking her head. Yeah. Yeah, no, she doesn't totally. She used to play an awful lot to very high standards, so she kind of plays. So she kind of experienced games in a very different way to me. So
Yeah.
yeah, so she thinks I'm just a bit ridiculous for jumping around crazily. But I think bear in mind what I've seen from other people too, I'm not that different from anyone else.
No, no, sounds perfectly normal to me, but
Yeah,
equally my wife thinks I'm ridiculous when it comes to
yeah,
Tottenham as well. So I think it's just a husbands and wives Tottenham thing. I don't know.
mm,
Uh,
yeah, possibly.
so watching from Canada's got to be a bit of an experience. How do you manage to juggle that?
Well, in some respects, it's easier because here you sign up to the streaming service. We've got Fubo over here now. It used to be
Hmm.
DAZN. I thought DAZN was bad, and then I got a Fubo, and now I think DAZN is a lot better than Fubo. Well, I've been out with Fubo, but it does mean I can just watch every game, right? So in England, you can't get to watch every single Spurs game, which is a bit of a madness, really. So I do watch every single game. Um, Got to be honest, I think I it does, but with the time difference and everything, sometimes it can be early, and so sometimes I have to do it on catch up as well because just life gets in the way of football, which is
Hmm.
very unfortunate. Um, but it's so it is an experience different from when I was in England. When I'd say I could either go to a game or I could be watching it in a pub with some friends, or some maybe friends could come over and watch it with me. So I don't have that kind of connection with people in the very kind of like I can reach out and touch them, sort of way. Have therefore found like just sitting on blue sky and just like kind of seeing other people in similar sorts of kind of experiences, like people like Maddie and Peter, etc. Kind of interacting with them kind of during the game is nice as well because it gives you a sense of oh, it's not just me who's just for that referee's a joke or something like along those lines.
Yeah, I think being an expat fan does kind of give us a little bit more distance. And it leads to some people like myself probably buying in a bit more than they should and getting a little bit too involved. Others, it gives them the chance to breathe and go, okay, I don't have to take this as
Mm.
seriously as I would if I was in the stadium. So I think a lot of people have very different experiences on being an expat fan.
I think for me, it has still given me a connection back to England, right?
Yeah.
Because for the best thing in the world, you can live without a lot of things, but you still want to have some connections. And kind of football is a way that a lot of us connect with each other. You get two men in the pub who don't know anything else, don't have anything to say to each other, and it's like, well, who do you support? I support, and then they're off, and that's so. Not having that with people here is something you miss, but at least having that connection to the team, and actually then through the internet, through Blue Sky, so still having that connection, I think it's important. So I do like it for that reason.
Yeah, I think Blue Sky's been really good for the Tottenham supporting community. I think, having looked around, it seems to be one of the bigger football communities on Blue Sky. There are a smattering of Manchester United fans, smattering of that other North London team. But if you go a little bit further down, I mean, when Ryan Mason became the manager of West Brom, I was looking for West Brom fans, couldn't find anybody.
Yeah.
Put a message out, and I think one person who's a West Brom fan has liked it, and it's got like boing boing and WBA in the hashtag, so somebody should find it. But you can't almost throw a stone without hitting a Spurs fan over on Blue Sky at the moment. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I think Milo and Unfit for Purpose did a great job of helping a lot of people migrate over. Yeah, and they also did a great job of finding people who were, not the weird ones.
Well, somehow I made it, so.
Well, I should qualify that by probably kind of saying, it's just the weird ones that at least I appreciate have moved over, not the weird ones that I don't appreciate.
Yeah, there's been a few weird ones that I don't appreciate, but the blocking function on Blue Sky is so good that it's not a problem. You can come and you can have your little parochial life where you are in your little bubble, but it's got nothing to do with me. Yeah. So beyond time zones and being in a fairly remote area, what other challenges have you had with being a Spurs fan in Canada? Have there been any Canadian players at Tottenham? I'm thinking Stalteri Canadian.
He might have been. That sounds maybe right. You might need to edit this out. You need to edit this because yes, he is. No, he's not.
One of those will be right. Canadian international. There we go. Yeah, we were both right.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just say I'm looking forward to Spurs signing Jonathan David. Let's put it that way.
It may not be happening.
May not be. I don't know. If he did, that would be great. And then that would just be obviously a Canadian connection. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's like the Canadian men's team is obviously not been always brilliant. It's getting a lot better. So maybe we'll see more Canadian players make it over, and that would be good.
Who's it? Alphonso Davies? He could probably come.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Yeah.
We'd probably accept him. He might be able to compete with Destiny. He might get a look in every so often.
Yeah, but once or twice I've been kind of looking at stats and thinking, Ben Davies is brilliant. Look at that. And then Alfonso.
Alphonso Davies. Close. But no, Jonathan Davis. David. I've been following him over here because he plays for Lille. I've been watching a few of his games, and every time I see him play for Lille, I'm impressed when he's playing in France. But there's been a few times where he's been up against English defenders, like he played against Aston Villa last season in the Cup, and he looked very, very ordinary. But it looks like we're not going to have that issue anyway because it sounds like he's going to Napoli.
All right, okay. Oh well.
Yeah, the French press over here say he's going to Napoli.
Yeah. So just going back to Blue Sky, one thing I've actually absolutely loved is like the lack of ITK, and they haven't been trying to follow me. I haven't been following them, and I've just haven't been paying any attention. So I don't believe it until I see them holding the shirt.
Yeah, there's a lot of gossip, but there's very few people saying, "Oh, it's definitely going to happen." This is what I've heard from my mate who's a taxi driver. Those things don't really happen, which is nice. I used to be on X, but my account is still there, but my account is very lonely because I haven't seen it in, I don't know, 9 months or something like that. It's a lovely place to not be, I think.
Oh, indeed, yeah. No, it is very, very much like the boiling frog. Sorry, the frog sitting in boiling water,
Yeah.
just slowly heating up. Because I mean, I joined Twitter what 2009 or something, 2008, and it was like a very nice place then. Then I kind of dropped off for a bit, and then I got into it again, and and it's you're just like, well, you're getting exposed to different points of view and everything like that, but it's some of those points of view is like you can be aware of them without having to read everything that these people are saying, and it's some fairly awful people there expressing some fairly disgusting opinions, and you're just like, and it just slowly kind of it's the death by a thousand cuts, maybe to mix analogies or metaphors, and really glad that I left and I'll never go back there.
Yeah, we could do Death by a Thousand Cuts, or we could go Stonecutters Creed. It was the 100th hit that made me go, I'm done. I'm out. Yeah. Ah, dearie me. Okay, so one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you was you put a post up on Blue Sky that was talking about the obvious, the departure of Ange, but the timing of it. And you were saying something along the lines of giving credit to Levy for actually keeping hold of him, keeping him in place for the Europa League campaign, because it would have been very easy to get rid of him before. I have to say, I agree with much of that. I genuinely thought he'd be gone in February. What did you see that was going to keep him in place?
Yeah, I mean, I assumed that they were just kind of looking at the context of the season, and being how we have been suffered an injury crisis unlike any other, and they just assumed so. Well, what can you expect when you've got an 18-year-old midfielder playing at centre back, and so and I thought there had been some, and there was, well, let's see how the injuries go. How the season goes once injuries get back. So I assume there was maybe some of that thinking in the initial instance, and then it was just like, well, at least you're still in the Europa League, and so that kind of saved his bacon. Otherwise, he would have. I agree, he probably would have been gone if there hadn't been the context, but there had been those results. So yeah, because I mean, the argument is very clear to kind of why you should sack him. It's just like 17th in the league, 22 defeats. It's not good enough. I mean, like, and anyone can understand that. But when you kind of dig into it a little bit more, I think there's a lot more kind of nuance in there, and there's a lot more context that needs to be taken into account. And I was, somewhat irked by this decision. I think because I think at the end of the season, after taking review and taking the emotion out of it, they still went back to kind of like, you didn't win enough games, and it's like that kind of like, it was a bit, just, it's a very, very kind of binary regressive mindset to take that. When you can see that we were by game 7, we were 7th in the Premier League. We were 3 points off third. Our stats were great. Our underlying figures were great. Everything was good, except for we just were not quite winning enough games. But one would imagine with a tweak here and a tweak there, then things would have improved, and we would have got better. But then, let's say then all the injuries started, and it's and then things kind of went sideways from there. And my take is that as well. I think Ange proved between season 1 and season 2 that he had the ability to adapt and change. But because they think that, well, maybe it's more than just the losses. Maybe it's the type of losses. Maybe it's the kind of the open midfield. The pressing structure wasn't right. So to that, I'd say, well, if you have an inconsistent team selection, then it's hard to kind of get that sort of rhythm. So that's going to cause a problem, and people are changing. They don't know each other. And it's these small margins make a big difference, and then maybe it's the argument is like, well, he wasn't able to manage on all 4 fronts. It's like, well, but by February, the only 2 teams managing on all 4 fronts were Spurs and Liverpool. So that's a credit to Ange. And if he hadn't been so successful in all the cups, maybe he would have been better. And when and if we looked at so just take a step back. If you look at the history of Spurs over the last 10, 15 years, like our first team genuinely has been good. Maybe even our first 15 players have been good, and they can compete. the next 10 people in the squad haven't always aren't at the same caliber. Right now, I appreciate that in any squad there's going to be a range, and but I think there's a bigger drop off between Spurs team and the B team, C team, than there is in other squads, and that's on the board, right? And that's on leaving, and they made a conscious decision to go and prioritize youth as a way to kind of rebuild the team. So if you're going to rebuild the team, and you've got a manager with a pedigree of Postecoglou, it's like, give him the chance to cook in the third season. It seems to me the most obvious thing. Yeah, I mean, and to carry on this one, sorry, I'm going off one here.
Go for it. Go for it. No, absolutely. Hey, look, it's better that you say it than I say it, because everyone's heard it from me before. So, yeah.
So what I would say about this is as well, I mean, to be an elite, if you can win cups for like 10 years in a row, like someone like Jose Mourinho, that makes you an elite manager. But if you look at it, most elite managers have about 10 years cycle where they can actually win stuff and do really well. It's only exceptional managers, Sir Alex Ferguson, Carlo Ancelotti, who have won stuff throughout their managerial career on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
And irrespective of where it was done in Australia, Japan, or Scotland, now in England, Ange Postecoglou has done exactly the same thing. He has won everything wherever he has been. And he's won it consistently, and now over 26 years? I mean, the guy's one of these kind of unicorn managers. We had him, we got the monkey off our back, and then we decided, nah, not for us. It just doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. So now we're
winning trophies and pushing on. Yeah, that's not for us.
Yeah.
There was a meme put up. We would like to apologise for Tottenham Hotspur fans for having the gall to actually go and win something this year. Rest assured, everyone involved in this awful decision has been fired. Yeah.
And it's like you're taking like, was it a $20 to $25 million bet on who the next person is? We're recording, so we don't know who the next person is going to be. Likely is Thomas Frank. Who knows? Though we may make to bollocks it up somehow.
They're likely to be in post by the time we've actually released this. But let's hope it's Thomas Frank, because he seems to be the best option at the moment.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, I've done some a bit more due diligence on him since kind of putting some posts together about Ange, and he does seem like a really good guy. I think he would be quite easy to move from easy to move on with because of his man management skills, and that's fantastic. He seems to have a flexible approach to his tactics, which could also be good as well. So, I mean, he does seem like a good candidate, right? I mean, but once again, my argument just goes back to it's like, but we had someone who is kind of a proven winner, and then we just said, "Nah, you're right, you go off your pop." And so, I mean, whoever is the next manager, I will support 100%. I mean, like, I am a proper supporter in that I am really rooting for my team. I'm not just one of these people who just say I'm a fan and then just slag off the team. So I will support them. I do hope for the best for them. I just think it's a crazy decision. So
yeah, I really did not like the choice to sack Ange. I thought it was a very bad idea. Many of the same reasons as you. The other one I thought was, I mean, clearly a decision was made to go ahead and prioritize the Europa League. And surely Daniel Levy must have been in line with that, because I don't see Ange as, I mean, he's a very strong-willed guy, but I don't see him as the kind of guy who's going to put two fingers up to effectively his boss and say, screw you, we're going to do it my way anyway. If there'd been any risk of us getting relegated, despite losing 22 games, he would have played stronger teams in the league and would have had to sacrifice potentially some games in Europe, or risk maybe a little bit more. But he didn't have to, because we were so safe for so long. And we lost 22 games, but if we played our first choice defense and played our first choice teams, we would not have lost those games. We could have finished higher up the league, maybe 10th, because it was tight down there. But would finishing 10th have been enough for him to save his job? I'm pretty sure there is no way that Daniel Levy would have said at the start of the season, you must win X number of games, blah, blah, blah. I'm pretty sure he would have said, I need you to finish with a Champions League position and bring home a trophy if you can. And he got both of those. We got Champions League football next year, and we got a trophy. So sacking him when he could rejig his priorities for the following season and continue the work that he'd done just seemed very short-term thinking to me. And as you said, it's already cost us something like 10 million to get rid of him and his team with bonuses and things like that. It's going to cost us a similar amount of money to bring in the next manager unless he's unemployed. So it's 20 million. That's an awful lot of money that could be spent. I mean, that's almost as much as Kevin Danso cost us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it kind of really strikes you at the heart of kind of what is the point of football, right? There's this whole thing for me, and I think that's why there's such a split in the fan base over this one. What is success, right? And we don't know kind of maybe what Daniel Levy's kind of idea of success is. I mean, I guess he thinks we are a Premier League club, and that is all that matters to him, being really high up in the Premier League. And because we're really low down the Premier League, the cups are an irrelevance to him, which is kind of mad when you think about it, because once again, we weren't going to be relegated, as you pointed out. And if we had, things would have been different, most likely. But, if you go back to the All or Nothing documentary, at the Christmas party that was featured, Daniel Levy's on stage. It's like, all I want from Santa is top 4 and a cup. And that's what he said. So that's probably what he wants, and that's how he thinks. And the reason he wants top 4 will be for 2 reasons. One will be the prize money you get. Also, 3 reasons. One, for the prize money you get for coming 4th in the or higher in the Premier League. The champions get access to the Champions League and all the money that entails. So what and for the prestige as well of being a top 4 club. So we definitely didn't get the prestige, and we didn't get the prize money, but we did get Champions League. So it's just like really. So it just comes. So this really comes down to, most likely, it's just like it's a prestige thing, and it's lack of and it's the money that we could have made if we were top 4.
Yeah. But
I mean, it's like you've got to prove him winner, and it's just like he's done enough. He's shown enough adaptability, I think, in season 2 to show that with the right conditions, he would have done. He would have adapted again in season 3. So you don't stay top of your game for 26 years without doing some adaptation with your approach. So, yeah.
And I don't think he's done yet. I'm really interested to see what Ange does next, because I don't think he's done with top level management. I don't think he's likely to go back into international management for a while, unless the Greece job comes up. If the Greek job came up, he'd be like, yeah, that's for me. I'll be on the beach most of the time, living in Greece with my family, and every so often I'll have to get together the team and give him a lovely rousing talk, because he's very good at that. But I think we're going to see him probably back in the Premier League, or maybe somewhere like Turkey or somewhere like that. Just go and win something. It would be fun. I know Jose Mourinho is under a little bit of pressure in his job. It would be quite interesting to see him go and take over at Fenerbahce.
That would be quite an interesting one. I'm sure wherever he goes, he will be successful. So part of me hopes it's not another Premier League club, because I just don't want to have that pain of watching him just like kind of what it could have been, So But I obviously just wish him all the best. He's been a great guy, and he has changed things in Tottenham. Just not Daniel Levy.
Just not Daniel Levy.
Yeah.
So let's talk very quickly about our potential new manager. I mean, we don't want to get into too many details because it's still a little bit up in the air, but are you somewhat excited or confident in what could be coming next?
Assuming it's okay. So at the moment, I'd say on the market, there isn't really that many exciting managers. I mean, one of them you could look at would be Xavi, having had the Barcelona connection. He would have been a kind of a good person to understand Champions League football. And he would, having played it and been a manager in it, and definitely obviously possession based, which is something that we are meant to be. But obviously he doesn't have Premier League experience, and just because you start at Barcelona doesn't automatically make you the next Guardiola. So so there was him. But apart from that, there isn't really a large number of. I mean, Klopp, I think, has ruled himself out of managing another Premier League team. Apart from that, I don't think there's a huge number of amazing kind of standout candidates on the market. So with that in mind, I think from where I've now gone and looked at, Thomas Frank does seem like a really good option. I've listened to the Adam Cleary video on YouTube, and he was saying that he has some good sources that potentially it was quite tight between him and Arne Slot to take the Liverpool job. And, these people obviously know an awful lot more about football than I do. And if they were looking at him very seriously, it's like, who am I really to turn my nose up at him? And say he seems to have, how no dickhead's policy. He seems to kind of, from a management perspective, a kind of people, as a person management perspective, he seems to be the kind of very much kind of anti-Conte, which is a good thing. I don't think Conte would have lasted. I don't think Conte would have lasted under his no dickhead policy. So
he'd have had to fire himself. So
so from that perspective, seems good. He seems tactically flexible. So I think, based on what is available at the moment, I think it would seem like a solid, if unspectacular choice. I say just unspectacular just because the best in the world. He managed Bromby in the Europa League for the first 3 rounds or something before getting knocked out. So he doesn't have the European pedigree. He doesn't have he hasn't won cups. So we don't know if his man management will translate into kind of getting the guys over the line in a final, if he gets them to a final. So, which obviously Ange knows how to do. Sorry, I shouldn't keep going back.
We're going to be doing that a while, I think, as a group, as a collective of fans. We're going to keep going. But what would Ange be doing right now if he was still in charge? It's not going to be an easy thing to turn away from, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, like he's going to have a tough job. Whoever takes over is going to have a tough job to kind of unite the dressing room, get them on side, straight away. I mean, you can see, wouldn't be surprised if Romero does put that transfer request in. The rumors were about moving to Atletico Madrid. So that could well happen. Obviously, he's going to have to manage more change. Obviously, Postecoglou had to deal with losing Kane. It's not inconceivable that the next manager may have to deal with losing Son, and there's going to maybe have to be a couple other people who will go as well. So it's and then on top of that, this is the other thing. So Frank is at Brentford, and Brentford are kind of like the model club. So if Brentford over here, I think on the other end of the spectrum, you've got Man United over here, which is a basket case, and Spurs I like to think somewhere in the middle. There is some sort of sensibility there, and then equally there's some craziness. But we're changing out Scott Munn. Donna Cullen has left. I can't remember the CEO's new CEO's name.
Vinay Venkatesham has come in.
Thank you. Yes, him.
Trust me, you do not know how long I practiced to make sure I could say that name correctly. I did not wish to cause any offence, but I had to practice.
Yeah, I'm going to fall back on my dyslexic brain. Wouldn't have actually said the word properly, his name properly. So, anyway, you'll have to see kind of what influence he has. Once again, it seems like a good appointment, and one would suspect that this is a kind of, planning on Daniel Levy's part to kind of hand over the business to someone who we trust to run it, because he has had kind of long relationships with him. So there's flex. There's things are changing in the background. Thomas Frank is used to kind of being a kind of cog in a very well-oiled machine. So one of the mistakes managers make is that, well, I did this thing in this one company, worked really well. I'll go and do the same thing in a different company, not appreciating the culture has changed.
Yeah.
So
bit of a pain, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see if the shift in culture is something that he or whoever is can handle. Because the culture is what the culture from last season is going to be different from the culture next season. So not only is there going to be a new culture for whoever the manager is, but it's going to be a shifting culture as well. So that could just lead to some difficulties. And you can see some people say, well, you're going to just kick a ball, right? How difficult is how important culture is. But then let's go back to Man United example. You look at Anthony was brilliant at Ajax, came to Man United, awful, went to Real on loan to Real Betis, and now suddenly looks like a Real
Brilliant.
player again. And it's like, what went wrong? It's like, Rashford as well, just went to Aston Villa, suddenly looked like a player again. So Scott McTominay just went and won with
Scudetto.
Napoli. So
Yeah.
it's one of the players of the season. So it's like,
Didn't look
was
bad, did
something
he?
wrong with the culture. So it'll be interesting to see how all the change affects Spurs and affects the squad, moving forward.
Well, I have some news for you.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Frank is now officially the Tottenham Hotspur manager. I've just seen it. It's popped up on BBC. So,
okay.
yeah. So there we go.
Good.
We were talking about it. It's happened. We are.
Okay.
It's now guaranteed.
Oh, fantastic! Well, I'm glad they didn't do this tomorrow, because just unveiling him on Friday the 13th just would have been just something that would have been held over us for ages.
It could have. Maybe that's why they've done it so early. I was so sure they were going to do it just so they could reintroduce the Frankie Friday tag.
Yeah. Does it say? Is it Justin Cochran? Was
Justin Cochran
coming on as well?
And I believe he is coming.
Okay, because Brentford were looking for him to step into Thomas Frank's role, and that was, I think, the sticking point.
So Justin Cochran will join Frank at Tottenham as the Danes assistant, despite efforts from the Bees to keep hold of the England coach. Frank has also brought head of performance Chris Haslam and first team coach Joe Newton with him, while another assistant coach Andreas Georgeson arrives from Manchester United. So there was another one, Klaus Norgard, I think, was due to come with him, but there's nothing in here about that.
Okay, well, I am now officially Frank in. I will support him.
I was always going to support whoever the next manager would be. Yeah. It's just, how much do we buy in? Because I was fully bought in with Ange. He came in, he was playing the kind of football that I wanted to see. He was talking in a very adult fashion, which, having recently had Mourinho and Conte, was a breath of fresh air to have someone come in and talk sense for once and, be defending our club instead of slightly slagging them off with, faint praise, as it were. So to have him come in was fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point in terms of just I kind of refer to the kind of the Mourinho and Conte years as the kind of the dark times, because it was a time where I just didn't really enjoy watching Spurs. I'd watch them every day, but if my kids came in and interrupted me, I was like, yeah, fine, I'm running on. It was something to take away with the dreariness of the football, and obviously the attitude that they had in the press conferences, how they always thought they were better than the club.
Yeah.
So I don't think we'll get that with Thomas Frank. I'm sure he will talk a good game, and hopefully it'll be a kind of continuation of some positive vibes around Spurs.
Let's hope so. Talking of your kids, have you been trying to get them into the Tottenham Hotspur way of life? Have you got them following?
Well, yes and no. So, my wife, she played international football for Canada, so she was really good. And
not bad then.
Yeah, not bad. Yeah.
Okay.
And so she kind of, but when we met in England, she was actually working for Arsenal, working in their VIP room. So she got to meet all their players, which was for her was an absolute dream, because she was meeting some of the people she was really admired. So off the back of that, she is an Arsenal fan. Love can bridge the impossible gap, it appears. So anyway, my son, he is a Spurs fan.
Well done.
Poor lad. But my daughter has followed my wife and become an Arsenal fan. Not that she actually ever wants to watch any games, but I think it's as much as to annoy me as to because she actually wants to support Arsenal.
Yeah. When I met my now wife, we went out for our first date, and she obviously realised I was a big Tottenham fan because it did come up. I was very clear from the start. I'm a huge Tottenham Hotspur fan. It is going to come up fairly regularly when we talk. She was like, that's fine, blah, blah, blah. I think she now regrets agreeing to it at the start.
Yeah.
But she talked to her friend who, my wife's Romanian. She talked to her friend back in Bucharest who was a sports journalist, and she's like, I met this guy, seems nice, but I'd like to wind him up a little bit. How do I do it? He's like, what teams do you support? Tottenham. Like, okay, what you want to do is you want to declare yourself an Arsenal fan. So the next time I went on to Facebook, and I'd already added her as a friend. I was not stalking. She added me as well. So the thing popped up. Mariana, my wife's name, is now an Arsenal fan. I was like, I'm not sure I'm calling this woman again.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I've told her many
so
times, you are so lucky. I'll try. I
yeah,
got over it
yeah,
because I had to sit there for half an hour and go, I don't know if I can do this. I just don't know
yeah,
if it's possible. So yeah, if you could overcome your wife working at Arsenal and being a fan,
yeah,
that's an entirely different thing. You're probably a better man than I. I'll be honest.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, thankfully she doesn't kind of rub it in, and so obviously Arsenal have had 1 or 2 seasons slightly better than Spurs lately. So
Yeah.
there hasn't been a lot of growing from her. So I respect her for that. Equally, I don't think I crowed too much when Spurs were doing better. At least I hope I didn't.
How
We're
many
still
times have you
talking, so I'm
brought
guessing
up
it
a
was okay.
European Cup record? That's the question.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I think we will now just cogitate on Thomas Frank being the Tottenham Hotspur manager. We'll take it in and go from there. But thank you, Fergus, for taking some time to talk to me tonight. And yeah, we'll continue talking, and maybe we'll do another one of these in the future.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. Thanks to you for reaching out and giving us the opportunity to have a chat. And yeah, I definitely
Yeah,
will be there on Blue Sky just during the matches.
excellent. Yeah, my
Yeah,
pleasure. I love doing these chats. These chats are probably my favorite part of doing the CADS podcast. Love talking to the guys, but these little chats where it's not just about what's going on currently, but being able to delve into people's past and find out what got them into Tottenham and things like that is it's always an interesting journey to take with them, and it's great. I think so. Love doing these. I want to do more. Yeah,
yeah, they're great. Oh, well, I'd say thank you for inviting me on. And yeah,
yeah,
love the
my
podcast.
pleasure. All right, thank you everybody. This was episode 155 on CADS. We're going to keep going. We're going to try and do some more. There'll probably be a couple more interviews over the summer, and we're definitely now going to sit down and do a big Thomas Frank episode because that's now required. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening, and come on, you Spurs.
Come on, Spurs.